back to the Haney Biz Project with host Mark Haney.
All right. Welcome back to the Haney Biz Project, brought to you courtesy of Comstocks Magazine and the California Backyard. I'm Mark Haney, and today I am joined by Vaibhav Nadgauda, the managing partner at Moneta Ventures. How you doing, Vaib?
Doing well, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. You are pinch hitting for our main man, Lokesh. And you guys both have interesting names, right? Your last name is Nadgauda, right?
Correct,
Not,
yep.
like, makes me think not good enough, right? But I know that's not the case. And then I think of Lokesh, right?
Yeah.
He's got Mocash, so he's got a lot of cash, and you're definitely good enough. So you guys are kind of like downplaying through the names. I think that's interesting. Now, you are a venture capitalist. You are managing partner at Moneta Ventures. Tell us about Moneta and what you do there.
Sure, Mark. You have, to right off the bat, I mean, you got a guy who's not good at anything and a person who has no cash running venture capital business.
Sets
so
the
there
tone.
can't nothing be going wrong with that one.
You're at ease
right?
when you walk into Moneta. You feel at ease automatically.
So, on a serious note, I think fundamentally what Moneta Venture is doing here in Sacramento is what you said at the beginning of the show, Mark, which is giving ideas and people a chance to make it big and successful here in this area.
So you do that. You have venture capital. It's there for the small business person, but you focus on a specific type of small business. Talk to us about that.
True. So if you look at, we talked about people dreaming and then coming up with ideas and then trying to make it big. It's a process. And if you look at that process, the early part of it is really, really hard. I mean, so you have an idea, then you need a team. And so now you have a team and an idea, but well, guess what? You need some money to make it. And a lot of people will give you money when you don't need it. Right? That's when you have the profit, the business is doing well, you have profits, and everybody will be lining up trying to give you money. Well, that's not when you really need it.
Okay.
When you need the money is when you think you have something good and you want somebody to believe in you. Take that leap of faith and say, okay, here's a chance. We're going to take a chance on you just as you're taking a chance in yourself. And that's really where the venture capital comes in. It comes in at a point when a business is very early. We typically look at businesses that are starting off. So maybe $500,000 a year in revenue to maybe $10 million in revenue. So they are more than an idea. They are more than somebody's dream. They've actually demonstrated that their idea works and that they can actually get to a customer, and there's a money cycle that has gone through. And from that point onwards, we come in, we can invest in them, and given our backgrounds, we can actually help them more than money, just like you do here. I mean, you have a lot of back office stuff that you do for your companies. We come from entrepreneur backgrounds ourselves. So we can actually help them in more ways than money. And then our idea is to get them to the next stage where a lot of people will be lining up to give them money.
Well, let's talk about your background. You and Lokesh have incredible entrepreneurial backgrounds. Give us a sense as to your background specifically, and then how that translates into helping these portfolio companies.
Sure. So, I came here almost 20-some years ago from India as a consultant. I have a computer engineering background, and I came here to help companies like IBM and Intel implement a system called SAP. That was my area of expertise. Through that journey over the last 20 years, the first time I moved away from consulting is when I started working with Lokesh, and we had this company called Rapidime that we started looking at the business side of things and helped that company grow from somewhere around $60-70 million to a little over $350 million.
Wow.
Right? And again, that's when we came to Folsom first, and Folsom became their second largest office in the country, right? For a large size business. We exited out of that business, sold it to Fujitsu, which is a large Japanese company, and then we started another business, which was in exactly the same area. We're doing IT services, and we started it here in Folsom. That business, we grew from nothing to a little over $100 million over 5 years, and we exited out of it. And so, the key thing for us there was we've seen how we can take a small company and what we can do to it to make it a big, successful company. And that's been our journey, and that was the genesis of Moneta.
Well, that experience is invaluable. You get to come into some place like Moneta and work with people like yourself and Lokesh and get the funding you need. It's not just the money. I'm picturing myself as somebody with a great idea. Maybe I've got a little bit of revenue going, and I come to you. Describe to me what you look for in a guy like me, right? In an entrepreneur, somebody who's coming to you for money. What do you look for?
It's an interesting thing, Mark. And what we've learned is there's not really one thing that will tell you what will make you successful. There isn't. There are a lot of things that will tell you what doesn't work.
Okay.
And so we know what not to do, and that's really important, right? And there are a few things that are just important, right? One is, a lot of people talk about, hey, you just need a really unique product and it needs to be differentiated. And if you can have that, that's great. But, there are only so many Steve Jobs in the world, but everybody else needs to make a living and make it big too. And if you look at our background, we come from an IT services background where we grew businesses that were not differentiated products at all. That was pure execution. That was 100% execution in one of the most commoditized spaces you can think of. So we have a little different perspective on this. So we look at the team. We look at, hey, are you committed to this? Do you have the ability to execute? And then obviously you have to look at certain important hygiene factors. I mean, you got to do a business that makes sense. The economics of it has to work out. But fundamentally, you have to have the right team with an ability to execute.
Well, how do you tell if an entrepreneur has the ability to execute if they've only got up to, let's say, 500,000 in sales, but you know that the exit strategy means getting them to 50 million? How do you know if that guy can do it or not?
And you don't. And that's the part about taking a chance, right? But it's not a roll of dice either. You can make a very good judgment call based on where they're coming from, what market they're going after, and how we do it is we focus on what we know. So what do we know? We know the B2B enterprise space. We know what it takes to succeed in that space. So if you're coming to us with an idea that is focused on a B2B enterprise, and that's the model that's going to help you scale, we can do a lot of checkpoints and say, yeah, you got this idea, it makes sense, and we can help you connect those dots.
Do you ever invest in pre-revenue companies?
We have a few, not more as an exception than a rule.
Okay. So typically it's somebody who's driving revenue, they've got a proof of concept, they know how to make a sale, for example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If we believe that they're on the cusp of breaking that barrier and they have a line of sight to revenue, we'll take a chance.
What do you absolutely shy away from? You meet an entrepreneur and you know right off the bat, no. What's a common mistake for an entrepreneur when he comes into pitch?
The way I look at it, it's clarity, right? You have to know what you're talking about. It's consistency. We look for consistency. If we find somebody inconsistent, they say one thing, then they do another. That's important. And the most important thing is just the sheer passion and how committed are you to it. If any entrepreneur is saying, I'm doing this, oh, by the way, I also have this and that going, well, no.
If you've got a part-time job at the same time, he's not one for Moneta.
Nope, not at all. Yeah.
And thinking about what an ideal opportunity looks like for you, can you give us a success story that Moneta has been involved with?
You're going to talk to one of our success stories, right?
I knew you were going to say that. The doctor is in the house. I knew you were going to say that. But how would you describe the doctor as compared to the average entrepreneur?
I had nothing average about him. I'll tell you that. No, and we got involved with Javed and Steve, right when we were just starting with Moneta Ventures, and it was very clear to us, just what they bring to the table. Just the sheer competency is one aspect of it. The execution, just the commitment to the execution, what they have risked to make this happen, and most importantly, what it is that they're exactly doing. I mean, they are reaching out to people who don't have access to specialist medicine, doing it using technology, and that's where the future is. And they're not doing it to cure your cough and cold. They're doing infectious diseases. They're doing psychiatry. I mean, it's not the run-of-the-mill stuff. And they're sitting right here in Roseville and doing it.
You did the perfect setup for me when Javed comes on the show. But before we get to that, just one last question. And thinking about our question of the day and which industries right now are most ripe for disruption, what are you seeing out there as the next one that's going to be disrupted?
You know, I have an opinion about that, and the way I look at it is actually it's the healthcare industry, and I'll tell you why. From my perspective, there's just a lot of stuff. If you've ever been a patient or you've had somebody who's been a patient, there's too much stuff between the doctor and the patient. There's too much value lost there in the whole processes and whatever that is. That's one aspect of it. The second is, if you look at the adoption of technology in healthcare, I think it's behind a lot of other industries. So when you combine those two factors and you say, okay, there's a lot of disintegration that we can do here and create value, and there's a technology that's going to enable you to do it, I think that's just huge amount of opportunity there.
So much room for improvement in the way we take care of ourselves, the way that we get treated when we are not feeling good, and curing these horrible diseases that we face here in this world. I want to thank you for coming on the show. We're going to bring up, after the break, Dr. Javed Siddiqui, the co-founder and chief medical officer of Telemed, to you. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, courtesy of Audi Rockland and DCA Capital. This is the Haney Biz Project.